This is beautiful. What is that, velvet?
Peace and love is the key.
You are now about to experience the J&J-Life podcast with your host, Reya'Sekhmet.
But my name combines Rhea, which means a connection to Ra.
J&J-Life podcast, please
Smash that like button. Peace and love is Vicky.
Abi Fahoria family, Abi to me, Abi Wan. I'm Reya'Sekhmet. Welcome back to the J&J-Life podcast. Look family, we have another banger for you today. And today's conversation isn't built on comfort, it's built on clarity. Our guest is known across the community for one thing above all else. He brings evidence, peer-reviewed resources, video clips, and words played back words played back, that way people can write them the moment later. He's a science literacy advocate, a challenger of pseudo-claims, and a voice who pushes our people toward real mythology, scholarship, and real accountability. He's an author of the book, The Chronology of Human Evolution, Real Black Atheism Explained. And he comes from a school of independent, Black-centered study, debate, and community teaching. He built his name and brand by demanding that ideas stand on data and not personality. And family, when he enters the discussion, I've come to know that the standard rises, because he refuses to let misinformation sit in the room unchallenged.
There it is.
So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Baba Ankh West to the J&J-Life podcast. Abi Fahoria, Baba Ankh. What good with you, fam?
How you doing, sis? I'm good. I'm in the game. I appreciate the quality introduction, and I appreciate you and the saw. I'm ready. I'm ready for this for the segment experience.
Ashe.
You see, how old is you? 9? How old you say you?
9.
Oh, 9. I was playing baseball. Little guy playing playing football. 8. The game, it was 10, 12, and I was 8, and I was going to 9. The coach like, you can't play. He too little with all the kids wanting you to play. The older kids, because I played with them, and I went out there and did my thing. I didn't worry about what my age was. So don't worry about your age.
I need to check in with my conscious locks, the co-host Baba Rastar. How are you doing today, Baba?
Abibi Fahodia, Reya'Sekhmet. I'm feeling and doing good. I'm living large, you know what I'm saying? And peace and power to you, brother Ankh. You know what it do, fam? What's good with you?
What it do? What it do? What it do?
Reya'Sekhmet. We got brother Ankh on the show today on the J&J-Life podcast. So you know it's gonna be on and popping, right?
Yeah. And Baba Ankh, I'm looking forward to turning up this wick, at least just a little bit.
You gonna turn the wick up?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Facts. And as we always do, brother Ankh, before we get started, we give reverence to the ancestors, the olders and the elders for all they have done and are doing.
Absolutely.
And again, it's an honor to share space with you and build with you today. Actually, I'm going to double down because I want to say, in addition to that, it's an honor for us to be able to learn from you today as well. And with that, you know, we want to sharpen ourselves through the work that you've put in, and we want to make sure that it's all unapologetically, because we want the Ankh experience. And shout out to Dr. Ma'at, you know, for the consistency and scholarship she brings to the African village, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I want to give a shout out to Dr. Ma'at as well, as she is a great pillar and for the standards she holds in the community. It's beyond paramount, at least to me. But with that, let's get into it.
She the good cop. I'm the bad cop.
Yeah.
You kind of got that thing going on too, right?
All right. So Brother Ankh, before we get into the heavy topics, I want to open the floor for you to share with the family who you are beyond the debates and the titles. For instances, where were you from, and what were some of the early influences that pushed you towards science, toward evidence, and toward the mission of challenging misinformation? Basically, who is Brother Ankh West?
Well, first of all, I'd like to give a shout out to Dr. Mayat. She's been a part of the team and brought me on her team for a very long time. We just been there for each other, and she never forgot her humble beginnings, period. And and I think it's a great relationship, and there's value in it because, you know, it's an ebb and flow in life. And so when you up, and when you down, you down. But if I say I can't keep it unless I give it away. So it's her time now, and she has elevated me. So I brought her into a space. She has outgrown the space and created a new space, and she elevated me into the space. That's all I'm looking for out of anybody, because there's an ebb and flow to life, and that's important to do that. So I like to say, big up to the sister, and hope you could be a strong sister like that. Quality. She's been through a whole lot dealing with me, and just the community, the way they mistreat her, the way they mistreat women, and she stood the test of time. So big up to her, and she hasn't allowed people to break that bond. And yeah, she a real one. Okay, so I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, and uh, my moment was actually kind of, I would like to say, going to church with my great grandmother
Mm.
every day. The hack used to, it's called a hack, the ride. Come get us, pick us up. We go to church. And as I sat in the church, I would have had to been 6, 7, 6. And it behind the preacher were these angels and pictures of people, but they was white, pictures of white people. And I used to say at that young age, man, what? I don't see no black people. I don't know why that ran into my mind. The stained glass windows was white angels. I was like, man, okay, so the Adam and Eve is white, the stained glass windows white, and that just kept me. I would say it kept me from going all the way at that young age. It was a question that just stuck with me, and so I just waited to be able to answer that question. Why would that be there? And so it's a gift and a curse.
Mm. Mm.
But yeah, Baltimore is where I come from. Had both of my parents in my life, which is essential. Telling you now, having your parents in your life, both parents in your life is essential. All my aunts and uncles helped raise me, and it was a great experience. So I don't even know why I went left. I don't want to talk about the gone left part, right? But I think what's important for parents is to give your kids something to get back to, because there's going to be a time where they want to be grown. They're going to be grown because they're all grown. They're their own separate entity, but they're going to need to be able to grab something and get back on course. So that's what good parents do. When their kids go off the Richter, just know you've done your job. If you've done your job, and they have something to get back to. So I had something to get back to, and so now you get to see me, brother Unc.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I got something to say, Reya'Sekhmet, but if you got something to say, I'm not going to stand in your way.
Thank you, Brother Ankh, because hearing where you come from and what shaped your mind matters to me and to the family watching. I've seen videos where people have only met you in the middle of correcting misinformation or when you're dropping receipts so fast folks can't keep up. But I want to know, before the debates, before the slow killer energy, does a moment come to mind that you can share with the family about the first real challenges that forced you to take a step back so you could come back with your mind sharpened?
I was homeless. Was homeless for 2 years.
I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, I was young. I was homeless. I came out the Marine Corps homeless. I got involved in drugs and alcohol, and so you know, my mother put me out the house, and that's a
Mm.
hard thing for a parent to do. But in that moment, that's when she loved me the most.
Mhm.
Is when she made me just grow up. And so I grew up for 2 years, went through 2 winters outside in Baltimore, Maryland. And I got to recognize it, man, yo, this is what life is about, huh? And I corrected myself based off the tools that I had been given through my grandmother and great grandmother and mother and aunts and uncles. I corrected myself. It wasn't a spiritual awakening. No God thing came down. I just started accepting life on life terms and recognizing that I'm the author of the good and the bad in me. I
Mhm.
could be a positive force. I could be a negative force. But at that point in my life, you know what? I decided not to make any excuses for why I was where I was at. And I think that's our biggest enemy as humans, as
Mhm.
Black Americans, African Americans, is we allow those excuses in on why we not where we supposed to be. And so I'm just want to let y'all know the excuse don't work. Winners just win. Losers always have mistakes. I always make excuses, my fault. So at that moment, looked around, I was like, nah, this is not, I don't, this ain't me. No matter where I went in that environment, I was like, this not me. I always feel like I was better than that. Even in those low moments, I was like, man, I see people doing things. I was like, nah, I'm better than that. But that was the thing that was installed in me. Love yourself, know who you are, no matter what. And so Yeah, that was the turning point when I came up out of that and decided not to smoke cigarettes, not to drink, not to take no drugs. I've been on that mission close to 40 years now. Don't drink, don't smoke, don't do none of that. And I'm an advocate.
Congratulations,
Yeah,
brother.
yeah, I'm anti-drugs, anti-marijuana, anti all that because that's like that was the gateway for me. So they lie to you, right? You know the commercials, not no man. Keep your mind sharp like it is right now. And I'm gonna tell you, Segment, the way you're thinking, your clear mind, that's what I wanted to get back to in those moments. I say, I remember a time where all I drank was grape Kool-Aid. I
Mm.
remember saying it just like that. And I was like, that was my get back moment. I lied to you. I was like, you know what? I just want to drink Kool-Aid again. I know it sounds childish and interesting, but that's how I thought. And that's why you see me today, because I just want to drink Kool-Aid. Yeah.
Mm.
And I remember those moments of being your age. And I got back to that in my head and I never looked back. So that's my moment. Homeless, 2 years, winter saying, I think I need to get back to drinking Kool-Aid, man.
That's a beautiful testimony.
Mhm.
And, you know, it it takes me back because I'm also ex-military, and I remember coming home and seeing my younger brother, I just getting off the plane. You know, my younger brother and I were tight, and I
Mhm.
say were because we recently lost him. You know,
Mm.
he was murdered,
Sorry to hear
and
that.
yeah, and I remember getting off the plane and out of all the stuff that I just came from being in the military, the last thing I wanted to do was come home and fight with somebody. But as soon as I got off the plane and saw him, that's how he showed me love. You know what I'm saying? And then when I got home, my mama said, "Yeah, you ain't gonna be able to stay here." So I ended up sleeping in the car,
Uh,
for a few weeks, just trying to put it back together. I understand and your journey, and without going into all that I've been through, because I know this is not about me.
mm.
I can definitely fathom what you're talking about, and it leads me to, and if you don't mind, may I ask a question? And we have this thing where I be saying I ask a question. I know I don't have to ask, but I just always show
Mhm.
her that type of reverence because it is her show, and I'm just blessed to be on this show, with her, to be able to share this moment with my granddaughter. But brother Unc, history has shown us the same pattern every generation, right? And
Mm.
that is, there's been people who talk just to be heard or just to respond. And I know we all been in circles like that.
Mhm.
And and then we have our truth tellers, people like you, people like Dr. Ma'at, people who speak because something needs to be corrected, right?
Mhm.
But very few actually show up to clear the confusion. Hell, most people don't even protect the community from ideas that can harm us if we don't challenge them. Does the work ever wear you down? That's my question. Does
Yep.
the work ever wear you down? Having to sift through a lot of nonsense, correcting misinformation and pushing back against bad rhetoric. Basically, do you think the African world, or specifically African Americans,
Mhm.
are beyond correcting?
No.
That's my question.
Oh, no, if I can get it, anybody can get it. I always have, strong belief, just in myself, whether I misspell a word or misread a word, I just got confidence and, get past it, get over it, keep moving. So if I can get it, I think everybody can get it. You just got to take your time, do it the way you need to do it. That question was, say that a question again. You basically was asking me what again? You was trying,
So I just want to know, excuse me, does the work ever get tiring?
yeah.
Does it wear
Oh,
you
yeah.
down to have to fight so much with people or
Yeah. Yeah.
so-called scholars
Yeah.
that put out misinformation or
Yeah. Yeah, I got
bad
you.
rhetoric and
I
stuff
got
like
I
that?
got it. So for me, I developed friends over the internet and then lost a lot of friends because they wasn't willing to grow
Hmm.
and they went against the mandate. The mandate is everybody will say this, people you interview, we know our history. then we're going to be better off for it. It'll help us get through it. It'll change our worldview. And I took that as being serious. So if that's the point, then we can't have a pseudo history, can't have a made up history. We can't push information forward that the elders got wrong. And so yeah, they hide behind 2 points here. They hide behind the elders. They make them renowned. They make them uncorrectable. You're saying something bad against the elders. And so that's the first point. Yeah, instead of hiding behind, like you said, religion, I want to bring it to up to date and where we at now space. They hide behind age, right? And so I always say 8 to 80, blind, crippled, or crazy. See, segment, you 9. See, so we could get into a back and forth because you 9. But the point is, they hide behind that. They misuse that. They misuse what an elder is, right? They mess it up. And so they hide behind those types of things. And yes, I actually get tired of being, well, I lean into being the bad guy at this point. And but at times I can be soft in my approach because I know things that I say could hurt you based off of where your level of understanding is. So for me, if I say she can't do Diops, he got that wrong right there. And say what he actually did. I'm giving him more credit than the people that lie on his name and act like he did this and act like he won that. The great example would be: are you familiar with the Cairo Symposium?
Yes.
You heard it. I bet you ain't heard it right though. You know, at the Cairo Symposium, Sikh Anti-Diop, Theophile Banger, Walt D. Rodney, they came in and they destroyed the European scientists. They destroyed all of them and they proved that the ancient Egyptians was black. And I'm saying to a website, they all got that wrong. First of all, it wasn't a debate, although it was lively debate at the scientific conference where 3/4 of them were from different African nations. This is important in history. Who the hell is UNESCO? Nobody even educated us on who or what was UNESCO. Well, UNESCO wrote the first 6 statements on race after the Great War. That'd be World War II, when Nazi Hitler got abolished based off his stance against human populations. They said they was the great Nordic race. Okay? And so they made statements against that. Everybody was afraid of Hitler and them. So World War II was actually in part based off of a fight against global racism. And so why then at this Cairo Symposium, UNESCO, why would they let Diops get off a racial construct? Nobody even asked these questions. And when I asked these questions and I actually read the document, I recognized that people didn't even know. I had never even heard it was a scientific conference. So a scientific conference is different. You bring your material, your information. Nobody gave Diops the credit for what he really did. What he really did was he flipped the field of Egyptology. If you know anything about Egyptology, if you know anything about Crania Egyptica, that's Samuel Morton. He's the father of scientific racism.
Hold that back up one more time for the family.
Select reading.
Crania
Yeah.
Egyptica.
Yeah, selected reading right here. That's what I'm doing.
No, yeah, you teaching. You know, listen, we take our position as students. So yeah, you teaching.
So most people don't know that the start of scientific racism was actually coming from the skulls that they had sent Morton, Rising and them sent Morton from Egypt. Right? And this is important to know. I also say at the Cairo Symposium, he flipped the field. What was the field saying? The field saying that the Egyptians was Caucasian. Okay? And ridiculous statement. All right? And it was pushback. So they didn't even allow, it was 3 stances. It was Diops who said that he brought, it's called the Black hypothesis. They allowed that in. The other group that was trying to promote the Egyptians was white. They was like, we're not even listening to y'all. And then it was the other group who had somewhere in between. And so, but the racial construct part, that wasn't correct. He said there was Negro from the beginning all the way to the end with variations in it. And that's another complexity that we could get, probably not for this interview, probably off air. But in essence, the things that he got right was thorough. Like he was one of the first people to promote interdisciplinary studies. That means he came there with literature from the biblical text. That's literature. He came with anthropology. He came with archaeology. He came with different fields of study and brought them together. And they was like, really? They didn't even think that way. Some people did, but for the most part, you could read it in his up-to-date Wikipedia page. So he's credited with being one of the first to bring interdisciplinary studies. We sitting here thinking, man, why wouldn't you use genes? Why wouldn't you use archaeology all together? They wasn't thinking that then. So he's credited for that. He's not credited for proving the Egyptians to be a social construct, which is an anachronism, meaning they never even seen the world through the eyes of colonial racism, white supremacy, and even calling somebody black, which is a hierarchy. White people are not called white people until the 1700s.
Right.
Where you won't find it in no record where they was calling themselves, and it was a whole group of white people. That's incorrect. We learned that from the great teacher John Henry Clark, who betrayed the African world revolution. Nobody listens to Clark. Clark say stay away from the black. You say, oh yeah, Clark said that. He said it's pseudoscientific. He said no Africans created a race. This is pseudoscientific Europe. That's where I get the word pseudoscience from John Henry Clark. Everybody missed all that. So Cairo Symposium, we big up Diop's for bringing interdisciplinary study, and we big up him for flipping the field to saying what? That the Nile Valley is inhabited by indigenous Africans, ranging in skin color from dark to light. And we studied the theory of we studied Charles Darwin's theory of evolution so that we can understand that biological population in the river and understand the ecology, the ecological systems that would even cause them to be dark and light. That's where we supposed to be. If you run around talking about Diop's one, that's not what happened. It was a scientific critique. Now, 53 years later, in the up-to-date research, they tell you who they think the Egyptians are. All based off of those fights, lively debates that occurred at the Cairo Symposium. Serious work. So then why would this community misinform us like that? Why would they say the man won a contest that wasn't to be won nor lost? Why would they do that? Because I'm not even gonna say it was willfully miseducating us, but we had more affinity for religious thought than scientific thought. That's all I can think of. We want to believe more than we really want to know.
Facts.
That's the answer to the question. It was a long way, but I wanted to give an example and what it was they was doing of hiding behind eldership. You give too much, it's too much. Like just because you're elder don't mean you can't be wrong. Don't mischaracterize me. Miss Sekhmet, as she grows, she will find things I said was wrong. All I'm saying is, if I got it wrong, please say I got that wrong and show me how I got that wrong in my old age. That's credit to me. That means I was trying, I was fighting, I was pushing. I pushed the line. And when you push the line sometimes, as a person with scientific thought, you're gonna get things wrong. Charles Darwin got things wrong. Dr. Ben got things wrong, but it's part of the struggle in scientific thought. As a matter of fact, in this community, the issue is that nobody is wrong. In science, that's when you learn. Oh, I thought that all this time, man, I was wrong. And that's your growth. And so I took these great leaps and growths and figuring out when I got things wrong. And I looked around me and people wasn't willing to go that far. But I thought it was a mandate.
Facts.
If you know your history, then it's going to help you push forward. That's what I thought. Well,
hey, you just say brother, you saved my question because I fumbled it coming out the bag.
Thank you for sharing that.
Huh?
I've come to know we have some knuckleheads out here, and it just seems like they refuse to want the truth. This
We got some knuckleheads.
knuckleheads.
Say that one more time for the family in the back.
Knucklehead.
This includes some kids my age, and even adults I've come across in my own family. I mentioned that, Bob, because every time I've seen podcast shows with you on them, it seems as though when you step into a conversation, the whole comment section lights up. People start doing reactionary videos, arguing in the comments like if they're defending a championship belt or something. But Baba Ross Sark calls those people keyboard gangsters. And what's wild is half the time they're not even debating your information. It's like they're debating your tone, your delivery. And I actually admire your confidence and your refusal to sugarcoat anything. I say that to say, I really want to know why you're in those discussions stuffing people upside the head with evidence. Did you ever expect the resistance to be intellectual at first? Like, where people were going to challenge you with real information and real science, or did it become personal way faster than you thought, to where people started attacking you emotional and started um attacking you before you dealt with the facts, before they even dealt with the facts, actually.
Did you catch that, brother?
Yes, I got it. That was an excellent question. I got it. I call it intellect. I'm an intellectual gunfighter. I'm at the OK Corral, right? And, I bring my, I bring my, my, you feel me? I'm bringing my intellectual. And we say in intellectual circles, this is ancient Africa, global history of 300, let me see, 300 CE, Christopher Eric. And this one is the Pygmies were our compass. Bantu, serious work. So I'm intellectual gunfighting with real sources. And we say around here, once you say something off scholarly, then you ran out of your intellectual bullets. That's when I know you lost the contest. So whenever they get there, I know I won. Because you should be able to reform what I said or correct what I said or show me where I'm wrong without calling names and name calling. But I know once you do that, you lost it. So I kind of knew that I had the weight of science behind me. And so I already know that it's like I'm like a bull in a china shop. At any time I can break all the glass in there. So, based off my growth, I learned how to just, if you make me smash the glass, I'm gonna smash it. But I kind of know how to use my words to stay away from it. But if you get too slick, I got to finish you off. I got to end that But if you come at me and you willing to learn, right? I don't mind the pushback because that's part of what we do as humans. We're gonna push back on what we think is in our head is right. But if you get disrespectful, then I gotta get you. Because it's important for people to be able to see that. So I'm never crushing the hopes and dreams of people. I'm not trying to catch aha moments at all. I'm just looking for people to come at me respectful because I want the lively, fun conversation. And people make it personal. And like you say, they keyboard gangsters. They don't have it. I done had people threaten my life, send me emails, you're going against the African Revolution as if we was in the middle of a war somewhere. The war is raging inside yourself. Ain't no war out there. The war is here. What decisions are you going to make in the grand scheme of things while you live in America? You either going to fix the problems inside of you that's going to help you build strong community, or you just leave and build a strong community somewhere else. But whatever you think you're doing is going to always require science and science literacy, even how you cast your vote. Why should I vote for this person as opposed to this person? I heard a lot of people talking reckless about Trump, about like a lot of people that look like me and you. I couldn't understand that. My science literacy radar was lit like this man is anti everything that's scientific. He's going to make bad political decisions. I wasn't worried about whether Kamala was black. All of a sudden, Kamala wasn't black, but the Egyptians was. See that? Like none of these things make sense through the lens of scientific literacy. And you start to be a walking contradiction. So yeah, people are walking contradictions. And at least I gotta know if a person says something and I can realize, wait a minute, I'm actually contradicting what I'm saying, then I might be wrong. Let me check it out. So sometimes in real conversations, even if a person has been a keyboard gangster, they might get something off that's right. And I say, you know what? You was right though. This community has a problem with being wrong, man. And you'll see me corrected. You know what? I think you're right. I misspoke on that. And I think that's important. And I'm doing it not for the old heads, but I'm doing it for people like you. So yeah, I didn't know it was going to turn personal, right? I had a good inkling that it would. I know how to push a button and make you super mad and rage. I know how to make you rage. I do. But yeah, I knew it was going to get personal real quick. I've gotten better at not really responding, force with force. But sometimes it just need that.
There it is.
That's interesting because from what I've seen in those video clips, it looked as though folks didn't argue ideas at first. It looks like they were arguing over something else.
Yeah, there's a lot of times we be seeing some of your video clips where people be in their feelings so deep, they done totally missed, you know what I'm saying, the direction that you were trying to take them in just when you're on your rebuttals. And it's like, come on now, what's the business there? You know?
I think it's you know, you'll hear people say that African Americans are the most religious people in America.
Mm,
And we'll lean into that. But it's religious thinking evolved in the Stone Age. So we have Stone Age brains in
mm-hmm,
the space age. And so I often talk about how on these savannas in the Stone Age, if we walking down a path and the leaves rustle, we'll jump. Well, maybe it was just the wind blowing the leaves, or maybe it was a snake. To get bitten by a snake in the Stone Age, that's immediate death. There's no there's no getting out of that. And so those who had genes that allowed them to jump quicker and respond in that manner reached the age of reproduction to have children that they could pass them genes on to that reached the age of reproduction. So people like me, it wasn't a lot of us in the Stone Age because we was like, I don't know, that might not have been. I don't know what. Let me investigate that. Hey, that wasn't nothing. Okay, the next time I don't jump, let me investigate, and I get bit. So at that point, my line stops. My genes. It's about genes and pushing these genes forward. So people that was very, very inquisitive, they just didn't make it. So the population was like this, full of believers, right? That are easily co-opted by religion. Because
mm-hmm,
all of us believe something regardless. You believe. A good example is humans never make the mistake in calling another human a shadow, but they will always make the mistake in calling a shadow a human. If you upstairs in your house and you hear the door bust open, boom, you're not thinking it's the wind, it's a tree. You're thinking somebody just kicked my door down. And you go get your gun and you run downstairs and you find out it was a tree that actually crashed and it fell out and crashed into the home. We have highly sensitive detection mechanisms, and these have been co-opted by religious people. So we did not evolve uh, 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 to be religious. We evolved to believe because it gave us an evolutionary advantage. Now it's flip flopping somewhat. There has to be more balance because it's like it's theory of the mind. I think I know what Sekhmet is saying, thinking. Sekhmet thinks she know what Asar's thinking, and we all think we know what each other thinking. We can be wrong as I don't know what. That's called theory of the
exactly.
mind. Yeah, we work at work. I'm thinking over that you and it's our mannerisms, it's the way our faces look, the way we convey ideas, and we can be totally wrong. And I say all this to say that our community has been programmed to lean into our religious thoughts to the point where even when we get out of Islam, Christianity, Judaism, we create a whole new God. It's the Most High now. It ain't Yahweh Elohim. It's not Allah. It's not Jesus Christ. It's the great cosmic force. And now we get into pseudoisms, new age. So we think we're getting from white religions, and then we fall into more white religions. Pseudoisms is clearly produced at high levels by the European community, and it's produced by the misfits. It's not produced by the intelligent people. So I always ask the question. So there's a running theme: don't listen to white people. And I was like, well, why are you listening to white people? What? Huh? Yeah, white people told you that the FBA or the FBA is trying to kill you. White people said that. White people said that it's the age of Aquarius. White people said that. That Madam Mavalsky mix all the religions together. That's a white person thing. It's a rarity to find people who delve into traditional African spiritual systems, which is a whole different way of seeing the world. Still religious thought though.
Mm-hmm.
Still religious thought. So I'm saying all this to say that we are the most religious people. And for me to come with scientific information and scientific literacy, most people didn't grow up with a science book on their card table. They grew up with a Bible in their house.
That's fact.
I got about 30 Bibles in my house. My kids seen 30 Bibles, but they seen 300 to 3,000 different types of books. Balanced out. So I think that's our biggest issue. Getting out of religion, but diving right back into another religion. So, yeah, and I don't know why people don't hear what they mistakenly say what I didn't say, and then say I said something I did not say. That's regular occurrence right there.
You're right about that, which leads me into my next question, because as I was scrolling through my news feed the other day, maybe yesterday, day before, but one of your posts popped up, on my Facebook timeline, and I believe it was titled, what was it titled? Criteria number 2. and I might be paraphrasing, but I remember you breaking down the principles academia used to identify astronomy and culture. I mentioned that because, for one, I want to learn more, and that's not a lane that I'm fluent in yet.
Right.
But also because when you teach those criteria or bring that information forward, it feels like you're pointing to something deeper. So I want to ask, what are you really trying to wake our people up to when you break down those criteria? Because I'm anticipating that you're not just talking about astronomy, but more so about what you just said about verifying anything before we run around claiming things as our own. And I'm also wondering, have you had any run-ins with other scholars, whether older or elders, that you can speak to specifically, who make those kinds of claims without backing them up with evidence?
Yeah, all the time. Like, one of my favorite is Professor James Smalls. Yeah, that's my favorite. When I first came around the community, he was the first person that kind of like, okay, all right, young man, and we could have good conversations. I still can have good conversations. Well, he just hard-headed. I guess we both hard-headed. And I always felt like I could give him an advantage over everybody else. And he feel like I'm a horrible communicator. I think there's some truth in that. He was like, man, you just kill them all dead. and I get it. I get it, but I don't where everybody will love James Smalls. I'm gonna get the same amount of hate. I'd rather you hate me with the truth than love me for the lies I've told or the misinformation. That's how I feel. And so Professor Smalls, he's very intelligent, and he's definitely one of the first people to say that, come on, Unc, I can't go. He said, because you stand on my shoulders. You could see more than I could see. And I was like, I get that, but if I can see more than you can see, then why not say it? I guess he don't want to hurt y'all feelings. I guess that's not for him, right? At this point, I am concerned about people's feelings, but there's a mandate that says we at least need to be on the right track at all times. And so there's a lot of elders who do the thing. They're not as loving as Professor Smalls is towards me. It's like they attempted to push me out the circle. And so just coming on this program was good, because most programs like this, they don't want me having me, because I don't push I don't push the fake mandate. I push the real mandate, accuracy, and knowing who we are as African Americans. I demand that accuracy, because I feel like, although it's a lofty dream to think just because you know your history, you're gonna be successful in the world, that don't mean that. But at least the idea is there, and I'm gonna stay with the idea.
Yeah.
So I just feel like a lot of the elders, Kilimanjaro, that's my man. He was like, bro.
Robert Takao?
Yeah, he was like, bro, he's one of the first people who actually stepped up and made me say, man, don't be afraid of not believing when nobody else would do it. So I was a lone wolf. I was by myself on that. But he stepped up and he was like, look, man, don't listen. You keep doing that. And that meant something to have a person in this position like that to say that. So elders are supposed to get things wrong. And the next line of thought is supposed to come and correct it. But what you should never do is bring forth misinformation, because at that point, it becomes pseudo. So I'm never calling the elders pseudo. I'm saying that people promoting the things they got wrong are the true pseudos. They're the ones that are misinforming. When we're having conversations, there's always blocks of time. You have to respect it. Frances Cress Welsing, you have to respect the time she was in and who she was going against. Sometimes it takes a pseudo to be the pseudo. You get that?
Facts.
You know, what was known at that time? Science moves very slow in academia. There will be a scientific truth of Charles Darwin. He published his work 1859. Okay? 1859. But then why are we having World War II? Why are we fighting at the Cairo Symposium? Okay, why? If they already had what's the deal with scientific racism? Marginalizing people because of the color of their skin. If we already had a comprehensive theory that there wasn't a such thing as race. What's the fight about humans coming from Africa? Why? I thought Charles Darwin talked about, he's one of the first people to talk about humans coming from Africa. Some of the great writers, John Jackson, Man, God, and Civilization. He writes a whole chapter, 2 chapters talking about Charles Darwin. I learned about Charles Darwin through Dr. Ben and them. Watch this. Man, most people that read Dr. Ben's work, right? All right. But skip the evolutionary part. I know because I did it. I was like, man, how I missed that? Because we go to, we started all world religions. We get stuck on that for a minute, which is wrong. But we stuck in that and we feel empowered and we miss the serious work that the guy was trying to do. He was trying to push you right here where we at. John Clark was trying to push you right here where this conversation is, where y'all can have the tools to take back to your community to correct things and to progress things. Correct things and progress things.
Say it one more time for the family in the back.
To correct things, to progress things. There is no progression without correction. If the wheels are square, they're not rolling. If you correct them and make them round, now we can progress forward. This is the foundation of science and science literacy. It doesn't pop up out of nowhere. Our community is flawed with religious thinking. If you allow me to just read a couple things on how
do your thing.
How this community actually started. And I'm not talking about John Jackson, Dr. Ben, John Henry Clark, they did their thing. I'm talking about this new thing on the internet. This thing of ours is on the internet. This conscious community, this consciousness, this great awakening, it starts on the internet. I happen to be a part of that. Don't hate me, hate the game. What I found out was that the core claims provided by this community was weak, had a weak foundation from the start. The movement's early intellectual scaffolding was initially inconsistent and methodologically thin. It was not grounded in scientific literacy. The claims were often presented without testable hypothesis, transparent sourcing, or reducibility methods of verification. Remember, you could just stand up and say anything, right? One of my old friends, we don't even talk no more. Sarah, I call him Sarah Stupid Seti, right? In them early days, nothing was being verified. There was misrepresentation of key Black scholars, selective, use of their works associated like Diop's, Dr. Ben, John Jackson, John Henry Clark, Chancellor Williams. We read the work and messed it up. We misrepresented what they was trying to say. This community, watch this, was full of this reliance on outdated white authors, diffusionist work, frequent citations of discredited or non-specialist sources like Gerald Massey, Albert Churchwood, rather than current archaeological linguistics, history, and population genetics. So when I hold up this book, I should have said this book is outdated and it may not sway with the current material. If you was reading this book in the 90s, that's the first statement should have came out your mouth. I'm gonna say it again. When you show these works, you gotta say this is outdated material, but it's heavily sourced in academia. Harvard,
Right.
Yale, all the great works is in the back. But that's from the 1800s, 1700s, 1940. It's an outdated work. We should have never presented these works as the standard on what we're doing.
Right. So let me ask you this. Because I can openly admit that I'm probably one of those individuals in the beginning of my journey, to go back, only because that was information that was being presented to bring forward. So if you have somebody that's taking that information, starting with a book that's outdated, but if they progress forward to what the information is today and how to apply it, then my understanding is that's good. That's the great direction.
That's
but
perfect.
if you are taking that outdated information and you're staying there, then that's the problem. If that is that what I'm hearing from you today?
Yeah, but the teachers, you can't call yourself a teacher and you giving us outdated work.
Yeah.
Just say what it is. I don't think we ain't even realize it was outdated. We didn't have that conception of what is outdated. We didn't. We understood. I understood that we needed sources. That's what I understood early on. We at least need, because they wasn't having no sources. Okay. But all sources aren't created equal. Sources are outdated. Yes, yes, as you're developing as an African American or as an African, however you feel yourself to be, that's a great thing to be able to progress forward like that. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying to understand the evil, right? You got to understand the evil to get you to good. You got to recognize what you're doing wrong to know what the hell you're doing right.
Right.
So that's a great thing to be, but how many of us can actually move through that progression? I'm saying don't even start us off like that. Like I'm never starting Sekhmet off saying this is the greatest work ever written by Dr. Ben. I'm saying it's an outdated book, right? We progress to anthropology books. Where they call the African. No, so thousands and thousands of textbooks. We learn from textbooks. You feel me? So, we start with that and we
kind of used
Kilimanjaro.
mentioned Baba Takai Kilimanjaro. This was one of our first books that we started off with as far as going back to bring forward. So we just want to shout him out, since you had mentioned his name. But
yeah, that's a real one. What?
Yeah. Okay, so let's keep building. Brother it seems like the resurrection of the African world requires a complete demolition of thought first. The unlearning of a lot of misleading and misinformation, like removing the rot of tribalism, mysticism, and anything else that weakens us as a whole. And I'm still learning. Still trying to understand what happens when you already tell the truth in a world that's married to a perfect lie.
That's deep. You know what? I'm curious. Where did you get that whole perfect lie piece from? You remembered that?
Yes.
Oh, I'm impressed. Yeah.
Listen to understand, not to reply.
Okay. Okay. And she surprises me every day, Brother Unc.
Get that. See, that's another one of them powerful statements she made right there. Yeah, you might be married to the very thing you love the most. And then what do you do? Right? When you change it. But that's that's a barrier. But the barrier becomes the way.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, exactly.
What stands in the way becomes the way. And so, it's interesting.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, as a young mind trying to grow, and part of me, as I said, I'm going to prepare my question, Baba, to ask my thought questions.
Yeah, take your time, Reya'Sekhmet. Take your time. Set it up.
All right. My question is 2 parts. First, what does it feel like to be the one asking the questions nobody else wants to touch? And second, what does it feel like sharing information that directly counters the lie people have been married to their whole lives?
Oh man, what does it feel like? Feel like the villain in the story.
Thanos.
Because you got all the Infinity Stones. You do. Once you get scientific literacy, you got all the Infinity Stones. And when you don't know, you say, "I don't know." Well, let's look it up. Let's find it. And so it's like a world. It's almost like Alice in Wonderland when they go to lunch and they be upside down with everything is upside. It's like that. Like people looking at me like you crazy. You know, humans ain't apes, humans not monkeys, humans ain't this, and giving them evolutionary information, and they're looking at you like you're crazy, and there's social implications to even having those types of conversations, and you fighting against all that because Europeans and different people called you monkeys and all kind of an animal. We not animals, but okay, we not an animal, but oh, you say we not, but we this, we that. It's rough and it's taxing at times, So I've had to just step back sometimes and just I look at my children and I say, well, I don't know whatever it is I'm doing is working. Couldn't have been that wrong, because this ain't luck. This what we doing ain't luck. You're gonna have your ups and downs, it's not luck. So I feel like I'm doing what the great Hubert Harrison would have done. No, nobody talks about Hubert Harrison. And don't let them fool you. Nobody really cares about John Henry Clark. Nobody actually cares about Dr. Ben. These are the non-believers. These are what you would call the atheists. Nobody's really, they act like they don't. They don't really, they talk about that next generation of elders that came under them, we call them like shadows. Like they wasn't trying to hear the scientific method. They wasn't trying to hear all that. They was listening for the religious thing, and then they made Egypt more than what it was. I called them Neo-Egyptian. So we learned about Neo-Egyptian, right? Neo-Egyptian, New Age Egyptian religion. We didn't learn about the traditional African sacrifice of bull. We didn't learn about the Nubia where when the king died, he sacrificed his subjects to die with him and buried. We didn't realize wow, what's the significance of that? Well, Christianity killed their king, willing sacrifice. All these things stem from man's old traditions. The old tradition of the king is found when the king died, the subjects die with him. This is how you know where the oldest kingship is in the Nile Valley. I'm going to say this again. The taboo of killing another human with the king is where you know some of the oldest traditions of that starts from. Read the work, The Dawn of Everything, The New History of Humanity.
Hold it up.
David Wingrove. He's part of the Nile Valley Collective. Y'all familiar with that website?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, here you go. Yeah, so no one talked about that. They had us practicing white boy Egyptian, Neo-Egyptian religion, where you pour the water out and you walk and you do. Man, come on, man. That's not a traditional African. That's not what they was doing a whole lot of that. And then the traditions, you wouldn't even bring that forward because they'd be outdated for modern times. And so we let into our religious treaties. So yeah, being on the opposite side of that is very interesting. I don't like it. That's why I'm very appreciative of being on this show, because most of the shows like this are just wrong. And there has to be a certain point where there will be no growth if you're just wrong. I remember during the pandemic, there were a lot of Black-centered shows that went against me. Most of them, like, how dare you give out people the vaccines? I actually started teaching about vaccines at least 7 months before the pandemic, because I wrote a book. Read a book. I can't even think. I thought I had it right here, but it was kind of dealing with how they track pandemics and how it was about that time again.
Mm-hmm.
every 100 years or
Was it
so.
like, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Scientifically, this guy, he was a virus investigator. He's the one that kind of tracked the AIDS epidemic and all that.
Hmm.
And I was having a conversation in Mississippi with some family, and they was ignorant on vaccines. I was like, "What? You wouldn't take a vaccine?" And so I just started, educate myself, looking at the podcast, and I end up getting myself in a debate. Big up to Sarnetta. I end up having a debate with Robert F. Kennedy. He didn't show up, right? But with Robert F. Kennedy, he's part of the largest anti-vaccine
Yeah.
movement in the world. Think about what I'm saying. Now, how is this man in charge of our medical thing now? The health, how? As I educated, went to the debate, all white people showed up, right? These 1,000 white people.
Hmm.
Black people was on their side.
Mm.
Craziest thing ever. Oh, boo, I got the tomatoes. And I'm like, really? And I talked about Onesimus and how there were African enslaved Africans in America that wasn't even worried about the pandemic that occurred in Boston in the 1700s. And they was wondering why you're not worried about it, because Onesimus had actually brought a high level medical treatment. Well, I don't even say treatment, but it was basically goes like this: find an infected person with smallpox, take a little bit of the pus,
Hmm.
and slit the healthy person arm and put a little bit of the pus there. It's called inoculation. Inoculation is the foundation of modern vaccine technology. We're in the third generation now. But they was wondering why these slaves wasn't worried about. The slaves wasn't even affected by the smallpox thing because they already had they had their treatment plans for it. And they was wondering, and they asked Onesimus. Onesimus said, "Well, in West Africa, this is what we do." And Boyerton, who actually went to Harvard, he was a medical doctor, and Cotton Mather was actually the owner of this guy. They actually did it to their kids, and then they developed a scientific study based around that, and they was like, it worked. And white people, right? This is when watch this. This is when the anti-vaccine movement started against high-level West African treatments, medical science. You can look it up on Wikipedia. Started right there. The anti-vax movement started against, they was like, no, it's the black people that actually brought the smallpox because they the devil. We not listening to that.
Right.
Right. And so as I taught this information, I was like, why are we going against something that we gave the United? I'm not gonna say the world. I'm gonna say because there were small pockets in maybe India and China where they was kind of doing the Chinese would take the sword, the small, and crush it up and blow in your nose, and maybe a spot in India. I always want to keep myself accurate, but for certain and for sure, United States, where they started the vaccines, okay, 17, I believe it's 1790 or something like that, where they get their first vaccine. That comes out of understanding the foundation. Remember, science moves in stages. There is no pop up out of nowhere thing, right? So you first have to understand inoculation, although that was dangerous, right? You have to master that to get to the point where you can take some pus and dry it out and put it in a syringe and give it to another human. If you don't understand that first step right there, you do not get the vaccines. If you do not understand the first generation vaccine, that's Edwin Jenner, create that first vaccine. If you don't understand the first vaccine, you can't get to the second generation. And goodness gracious, you're never getting to the third generation, the mRNA vaccine. You're never getting to that. So it's all in increments and steps to get there, to which
Right.
African Americans was a part of. And that's why I'm always wondering, why are we fighting against what I'm saying so much? I'm simply saying, I'm giving you the information to critique what I'm saying.
Hmm.
I don't understand it. What I'm saying is critique me. I'm giving you the tools to say, is brother Unc, is he making sense? I'm giving you the like scientific literacy is a vaccine against the charlatans, the Malachi Yorks, the Dr. Sabies, the misinformation. Matter of fact, that brings up a great book, Trick or Treatment. Yeah, Trick or Treatment. Read the book. They go through all the different herbs, why they work, why they don't work, why they don't. I'll give you, man, shoot. To close it out on this point,
Giving gems.
yeah, to close out on this point, One of the largest herb industries can be found in China. It's called traditional Chinese medicine. They also have a large industry in Africa, traditional African medicine. So why does China have one of the largest traditional medicines, but have evidence-based medicine right beside it? Why does Africa have one of the largest traditional medicines, but don't have a strong infrastructure for evidence-based medicine? What's going on here? What is it that they have realized that Africa has not? What is it that China has realized that the so-called conscious community has not? There was a place for herbs where there were small populations, where the medicine man, his very job relied on. The Egyptians were renowned. The Greeks say they renowned for their medicine, for their herbs, renowned. And they worked to a certain degree. Why did they work? Because the populations were small. Humans was not in every ecological niches. There wasn't a whole lot of zoonomic transfers from animals to animals, or from humans or animals, but from different animals to humans, where certain viruses mutate and transform. We are fighting a war right now against disease and pathogens and viruses. We're surrounded by trillions and zillions of pathogens. Every time you take a breath, you breathe in trillions of pathogens, right? So why don't the herbs work? Because they may have worked in the Stone Age, in the Iron Age. They may have worked, but the pathogens that they work against have evolved, and the herbs have not evolved. Okay, that's why modern medicine now is so important, because it evolves with the daggone pathogen. We seen it in front of our face.
We follow you. We follow you.
You get that? So I'm gonna close it out with a herb may have worked on Egyptian time, but the virus and pathogen itself has evolved past that. And the herb is just food. It's innocuous. The body does not recognize it as something that would cause an immune response that would fight against a pathogen. It recognizes it as food. That's why they don't work the way you think they should. There's that, and so we have a sign, and it is Black History Month. Julian Percy, it's my favorite guy. He had his own pharmaceutical company. He unlocked the secret magic of plants. What was the secret magic of plants? Plants have he unlocked the chemicals, okay, that's in the plants. He extracted those particular chemicals, okay, to produce pharmaceutical grade drug. Oh man, big pharma, like, man, stop it. Business is business. We get all that. We understand that. But I'm telling you, the science behind that comes from Africans like Julian Percy. Okay, an active ingredient in plants. And so humans have not stopped using herbs or stopped using plants. They have just modernized it. You get that? Now they know why this particular plant at this particular amount does this for this particular person at this particular weight. We know what the active ingredient is. We can add something to it to make it stay in your system longer, so it can do it, so it can have its desired result. So why would we go backwards with the herbs? The herbs is Stone Age. Why not listen to great African scientists like Julie Percy, who unlocked that secret magic of plants, the active ingredient, right? So I know I went on a long one right there. I hope I answered that question, but I just wanted to kind of just give y'all just a taste of the difficulties and going against the community with the misinformation, because it all started off with misinformation. They all denied the great legacy of Hubert Harrison, who was an atheist that stood in Harlem with thousands of people. He's the first person standing on a soapbox. He's an atheist. So they all deny the atheist, and it's the atheist, right, who actually educates the community with strong scientific literacy and strong values. But they say it's the opposite. But it's the religious amongst you that will be like religious people do. They cheat. They don't be honest. They always want things in their favor. They do not care about the results. They care about being who they are. They care about being like Umar Johnson. He keep taking our money. We keep giving it to them. You know why we keep giving it to them? Because we don't have literacy on finance. So scientific literacy includes financial literacy. Scientific literacy includes making proper decision making in your community. That's scientific literacy. So African, if I could say anything, as people of color, African Americans, if you think yourself to be FBA or whatever you think yourself to be, right? You need to be literate in your finances, and you need to be literate in matters of the ecology, because humans are in the ecology, part of the ecology. We change and construct our ecology. So the best thing to do is use your science.
There it
I'm
is.
going to end with that.
There it is. You know what? Let's do a check in with Reya'Sekhmet. How you feeling?
Very good.
Yeah,
All's well.
all is well. Okay, we got dictionaries over here in the back. You know what I'm saying? If we need to break down any of brother Unk's terminology, so you just tap in whenever you think you need some clarity. Okay.
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 Brother Unk, thank you. For real though. Because the way you broke that down, I felt that and I needed that. Actually, I want to share something from my own little experience if that's okay with you, Baba.
I'm here.
Okay.
I want to hear this too. This is you. You know, we talk about a lot of things, but I wasn't expecting what you got. What you about to say?
Ever since I started posting my videos, I've seen exactly what you're talking about. Some people show love, some people ask real questions. And then there's that other group. The ones that Barbara started warning me about. You know, those people who get mad at a child for telling the truth they've been avoiding. For instances, I had one elder in my own family comment, "Why is she talking like that?" Or "She's too young to know anything." And Baba, I just laughed because I realized, or at least I felt, they were talking to me. They were talking to their own insecurity.
Right.
I know my question wasn't the problem, their comfort was. So hearing you explain that emotional cost and the pushback, it helps me understand what I'm walking into as I keep growing and asking questions that people pretend they don't hear. I can't stop and I won't stop.
And
So-
you shouldn't stop.
Yes. So thank you for being honest.
No, we need. It's my yacht, right?
Yeah.
They're not the foundation, the
Yeah.
moral fabric. If we're African people and we claim ourselves as African Americans, our ancestors come from Africa. We are part of the foundation of America, and we built this thing for free. 12 million of us was brought to the Americas. And, you know, I feel like we should never forget that part. And we should never separate ourselves from Africa, okay? Because that's the mother. That's not only the mother, but that's the mother of humanity. And I think we should always lean into that. But we understand how we was brought to America, part of the largest forced migration, and built that, and we respect and love our history here. So I always say I'm an African American. That's why I say Black African power. Black, because I'm Black and I'm proud. And I use the word Black for social and political reasons. Okay. I say Africa because I know that's the foundation that we came out of, right? And the power that we will push forward based off of scientific literacy in America. So I love I love America. I love to watch people like you, Sekhmet. You're a light in a real dark space. And don't worry about us that are older and are trying to fight our own insecurities. And your words actually push that insecurity, right? We'll say, well, I couldn't become a lawyer, so I don't think you should try to do that. But we're really saying that I couldn't do it, so I'm thinking you can't do it. I'm saying, why didn't I think of that? So why are you thinking of that? There's going to be a lot of that as you grow up, as you stay ahead of the standard. You are ahead of the standard. You're pushing through a space where people your age don't do it. And you're gonna which you may think you know or believe today, it may be different later on down the line. My daughter tell me all the time, "Dad, I don't believe none of that, but don't you call me an atheist." I laugh because I never asked any of my kids to be any of that. You get it? Like I'm never pushing my thing on my kids, right? and your elders and your aunts, they should never push their thing on you, right? It's a great world out here. And you have to have a mind of a child that be able to ask questions. And I say religion actually stops you from being that child. It actually stops you from growing. It actually stops you from asking those pertinent questions. So as long as you ask those hard questions, sis, you don't get pushed back. Don't worry about that, right? There's a gem in everything that everybody says. You just gotta be able to pick the gem out. Don't worry about that. That's their insecurities, not yours.
Yeah. Yeah. Hold up your book.
What you got there?
This is.
That's her work. That's her book.
Yep.
It's my book.
Yep. Yep.
That's her book, and I'm just gonna put a little bit more context to what why she feels that way, and she won't stop. Like she said, is that there was an instance where one of the family members was interested in wanting to support her on her book journey, but one of the questions that this particular family member led with was, is Reya'Sekhmet a Christian? Because I want to make sure that when I purchase this book, that it has the Christian values that I would want in anything that I support. Yeah. And it's like, one, this is your family member, and I won't call nobody out by relation or by name. They know who they are. But the fact is that Reya'Sekhmet's book is about two sisters who have a bond out of this world. It came out of her mind, it's her writing, and it's her thought. And it talks about things that deal with everything that we're talking about today when it comes to information, whether it be aligned in a non-fiction or a historical fiction, which her book is. But it talks about the remembering, and it talks about how two girls go back in time to gather that information about ancient Africa, whether it was in ancient Kemet, ancient Kush, Punt, and talk about different names and characters. And a person is learning ancient history without even knowing they're learning ancient history in this book when they read the journey of these two girls. And so for that particular person to want to come after a child for her writing style and the things that she chose to write about, it was like it took us back, and we had to remind Reya'Sekhmet that, you know, and I'm gonna get in trouble for this one, but you know, my grandfather used to always say, "One monkey don't stop no show." So, you know what I'm saying? And so I say that to say that one individual, you're gonna have a few people that may hate on you, that may not like the direction you're going in, they may not support what you're doing, but you're going to have a ton of people that is going to support you, follow you, and do your thing. So basically what I'm saying is, don't let that one individual, that one thought derail your mission, because you're shining so bright that here down the road, that would be an afterthought. You know what I mean? That would be an afterthought. So don't let that get to you. So by her asking you that question and getting your take on what she's talking about and hearing what you had to go through or what you've gone through and going through in your journey, you know, gives her fuel and ammunition to keep moving forward. So we just say thank you for taking the time to bring that information piece to the table.
So you know what's interesting? The person actually said that they really want to know more. Sit down and have a conversation with that person. Hit them with a good joke. So when you bought your gas, did the gas have good Christian value to it, or do you just buy the gas? Right? You know, it was good old Christian values that brought us over here. And that was always sitting at the top of my head. When I talked to my mother. She was like, "Boy, you don't believe, do you?" I said, "But Mom, no, you know why?" I said, "So maybe we should just thank the white people." She was like, "Well, why?" I said, "Because the white people brought us from Africa. And in Africa, they wasn't Christians, right? When they got to Africa, they found non-Christians." She was like, Oh yeah, I say so. We should thank all white people for bringing us to Christ. She just bust out laughing because
Yeah.
she knew I got her at that point, and we let you know what I mean. My mother, we laugh and joke, right? You know, she's no longer she's with the ancestors now, but that right there, have a conversation with that person. They actually don't mean no harm. They don't know what Christian values are. It was the Christian values that enslaved 12 million African people. It was the Papist Bull.
Mm-hmm.
Pope Julian the Sixth wrote a Papist Bull. If you do not find a Christian monarch in these lands that we are exploring, you can bring the souls to Christ. That's Christian values at high levels. Ask that person, did you know that? That they wrote a Papist Bull. You can look it up. It's right there for you to see. That they felt like all our souls need to be brought to Christ because we were sinners. They said that, but that the word sinner is actually a Christian value. It's a value judgment on another individual that you're born into sin. That's not how we saw it in our world. And oh, by the way, with the Christian values, are the Christian values a worldview value? Obviously not, because the biblical world was never talking about the whole world. It was talking about their world and their experiences and their value system. I'm simply bringing to the book another value system by other people that even predate the Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. So what's wrong with that? Are we just looking for good values or Christian values? I said that so you can show that to this person. That's all I just want to get in there.
No, we appreciate that, right?
Yes. Thank you, Asar and Baba Ankh. Your words mean a lot.
Facts.
So, Brother Ankh, let's transition. Names are important, and I'm interested in your name. Will you share with the family about your unique name, Ankh West? And we gotta talk about the name Soul Killer, Bobby Banger, the God Killer, and what it means to you.
Oh man, so
Bobby Banger.
so you know the name Ankh. They call me Brother Ankh, and Ankh is life. That's all it means in the text, in the Egyptian text or the Kemetic text. Wherever you see the Ankh, it's simply talking about life. So if they're using the word talking about life, they're going to use the Ankh, right? And we understand what life is. Life is eternal, and is fueled by death. We understand that constant transitional periods, right? And so when they say Bobby Banger is when you got me mad, now I'm banging on you. But I'm banging on you with the information. I'm an intellectual gunfighter. I'm gonna put the full weight of the scientific community and the intellectual community. I'm gonna bring it to these conversations. And then God Killer. Man is actually God. The person speaking is actually God. If you're honest to yourself, you'll recognize that any religious text written by anybody in the world is written by human beings. They just found like one of the oldest religious texts was actually written by a woman. Okay, that's something I'm gonna be talking about on the show. So humans are actually the God. And if you read any text, you'll see that all the gods take on human qualities. So it's humans writing about themselves, it's writing about what they think about. And then those humans will say, they'll make a point that I was inspired by God. And so God Killer is simply saying, I'm killing the fake representation of what you think God is, and I'm bringing it to reality. So it's a name to make people say, why you call yourself that? That shows that I'm not afraid to go against religious stances, whether it be traditional African stances, whether it be Islam, Christianity, or Judaism. I'm not afraid. Okay. I made sure in my path that I practice traditional African religion. We had to sacrifice certain animals, chickens and stuff like that. You had to see what it was like to take a life of another animal, what that relationship was. You had to put it on an altar. I did all that. I needed to see. I love going to voodoo ceremonies. I suggest all African Americans go to a voodoo ceremony. It will show your level of fear of the God that was instilled in you. Because people like, man, whoa, my life going good, man. I ain't messing with no voodoo, right? It's part of a living tradition. It's no more than you go to church and watch this, and you drink the blood, the wine, and eat the flesh. You don't have a problem with that, right? And so, that whole God Killer thing is really making people, well, why would you say, well, because I'm not afraid. I know it's a word. I understand the word God is a dramatic tribal word that ended up in Christianity. It's good, mighty man. We're talking about the mighty man. Okay,
Right.
so those names right there serve different purposes, and depending on, where I'm at in the conversation, I take on that persona. It's better than that name. It's fun.
I like all of them. Which one do you like?
Bobby Banger.
You like you like when she like when you be banging on them, huh?
Yeah, you know what? I tell you what though, you got to know that. Go back and listen to that Dr. Mayat interview. You said something about how your belief is false if you think. You remember that statement? You was talking about how beliefs is kind of false. You actually killed religion right there. You killed the belief in God in that. Go back and listen to that again. You're gonna say,
I'm
yeah,
gonna have to go back and listen to
yeah,
it with
yeah,
you.
that
I'm
was like,
interested in knowing.
yeah, you actually, I don't know if you meant to do that, but I'm saying just get ready for the backlash, sis. Um, one of my
Preface. What was it? What was it again? Something about the belief.
you gonna
What?
know, man. She was basically saying that if you believe in and don't know, you really don't got nothing. You just killed the whole God religious thing. It was deep. I was like, man, I wanted to bring it, but I ain't have time to show you. But I don't even know. Sometimes we'll say stuff. Go back and watch that again. You're gonna catch it. It was deep. I was like, oh man, did she know what she just said?
Oh, you
Remember,
should have clipped it. We know you be bringing them receipts. You should have clipped it.
I said there's consequences to what you say. And that's one of them right there. And one of my favorite persons is Neil deGrasse Tyson, the
Mhm.
pseudo killers, and big up to all the pseudo killers. And we went to Neil deGrasse Tyson. I got a chance to ask him after the programming, if they cleared the theater, and there was a few people there. I got a chance to ask him a question. When I asked him a question about I said, how do you deal with African Americans? We are the most religious, and we leaning towards such. He was like, man, that's so great. I'm gonna wait to the end to answer that question. He talked to me for like 20 minutes about that
Mm.
question. You will never hear Neil deGrasse Tyson say he's an atheist, right? Because his baggage that comes with that. First of all, most people don't even understand what the term mean. The term was actually a pejorative, and they place it on the Greek philosophers who were simply asking questions about the natural world. They were simply saying, wait a minute, Zeus did not create thunder and lightning. They wanted to give a natural explanation. They was like, you're atheist. Wait a minute, we trying to figure out the atoms. You mean Zeus didn't do? You're an atheist. As a matter of fact, during those time periods, if you bring it a little bit forward, Muslims call Christian atheists and vice versa.
Yep.
So it was a pejorative. Then it became a point where it was I just don't believe in God. But those early Greek philosophers, philosophy gave rise to science, right? No, philosophy gave rise to naturalism, and naturalism gave birth to science. And so that term right there, find a way not to use that term. Find a way, because that term actually puts people in, like if I say monkey, you're like, what? If I say to you humans is monkeys, you're like, what? It's gonna throw you. Because it's the language. The language itself is not even prepared. The language is wrong. Because we're not actually monkeys that you think you're seeing, right? But in science, the words mean something a little bit different. Okay? So if I say tetralek, if I say this to you, look, right here, hold on. Right here. We never lost our fish. Donald Prothero.
Mhm.
Listen to that. Get this one. Donald Prothero.
Got it.
Yeah, serious
Locked in.
work. Yeah, get it audible. Donald Prothero, right? And this right here is tatalic. They say the fish that does push-ups. So actually, humans have never stopped being fish. You get that? That like you never
That's
leave.
deep.
We're a suppository. We're a museum of everything we evolved from. You know how they know? Males. We have hernias. Well, where does hernias come from? So if you go 350 million years ago, if you look at a fish, their testicles are near their brain, right? And as 350 million years pass, right, as we go through evolutionary time, evolutionary pressures, right, they kind of move down and weaken the stomach lining to where they end up where they are in Homo sapiens sapiens today. That's a scientific verifiable fact there. There's a cord that attaches to the brain of a fish and goes directly to their, I'll say their larynx, right? But over time, right, that particular wiring actually wraps down back around the heart and goes back up to the larynx again. Well, why was that? Well, when it was a fish, it was right there perfectly. But as it evolved over time, that particular line, that nerve, actually still serves its purpose and it works good enough. So that's how we know the things we actually, evolve. Like you never leave your, it's like a box inside of a box inside of a box. If I can explain it to you like that. You never actually leave that box. But there's social implications of saying you're a fish. So we're never running around saying we fish, and we never running around saying we monkeys. You just never would do that. So I'm saying the word atheist has a lot of baggage to it, and people will misrepresent you. I did it because I leaned into it, but the eloquence and grace of it is to be able to have your speech and say what you say, and then the person hit you, recognize it, man. Then they'll ask you, right? Then they'll have the conversation with me then. But I don't want you to judge me. So I never want people, I really want to have a conversation with people. That's why I respect Neil deGrasse, because he just never said it. I had to say it for this community because they thought it was such an egregious thing. And they would say, well, Africans never not did that. But wait a minute. No, there wasn't high levels nowhere on earth where you could actually monitor who was believing, who not believing, because it's a taboo in the community. It's a taboo to say what you're saying. Right? You wait a minute. We raised her to be good Christians. It was a taboo when I did the naming ceremony, the voodoo ceremony for my kids. And the grandparents was there, they was all there, and the preacher, I just asked the preacher one thing. Look, bro, don't put that oil on my baby's forehead. Now my sister might go for it because she was there. She had the ones, right? I said, don't do it. So I had the voodoo priest there. We did our thing. I read something. It was tight. This man get to doing the first thing he said, guess what he said? Good parents raise their kids under Christianity. I was like, what? I was like, shot one. I said,
here we go.
Here we go. Then he do the whole Christian thing, right? And he take that oil out of his pocket and he put it on my sister's baby, my nephew's head. And he went to do I say, hold on, bro, I told you don't do that. I say, first of all, you do a shot. Second point, you're disrespectful. My aunt was like, oh, here you go with that. And I was like, no, we ain't doing this because that man is not honest. I said, first of all, I didn't talk about whether you should be a Christian or not, or whether y'all should practice traditional spirituality. I said, I simply did my thing out of respect and honor, y'all. I wanted y'all to get a glimpse into where you came from. I said, this man up here is supposed to be a Christian, supposed to have all these values, right? This man go against respecting me. I told him, do not put the crazy food market oil on my kid's skin. Don't do it. It's a baby. You're going to break out. I said, but he did it anyway. I said, I'm not finishing the ceremony. My aunts and then they start crying. My grandmother was there looking at me. My grandma was like, because she know how I get down, right? Everybody like, I was like, you know what? I love y'all. I'm going to let him finish. But don't play. I say, and by the way, you christening ships. I said, it's not a Bible teaching. So they finished with it. I say this to say, stay strong in your wisdom. I forced my family, literally through academic discourse, to pour libation at Thanksgiving. Right? Take a plant, we honor the ones that came before us. Right? I forced them into that, to call out the names of Grandma Rice. You know what I'm saying? Nana, Bobby West, yeah, that's my father. Bob, they love it, man. And then they say they prayer, and guess what I do when they say they prayer? They be praying, I be like, well, and everybody busts out laughing, right? So yeah, you know what I mean? I just wanted to let that out.
No, we appreciate that.
I want to let that out, you know what I mean? But stay strong in where you at, and you're going to grow, you're going to change. Remember, science is not actually concern themselves with the truth. So be careful with that word because things can change. Never speak in absolutes. What you know to be true today could be wrong tomorrow. A scientific mind pushes for change. All science is always trying to debunk itself. Okay, so never be stuck and rigid in what you know, and be willing to change because that is science. Science changes. Science does not work in absolutes. Religion does, because Jesus Christ died for our sins, no matter what.
I can see you got some thought. I can feel it. What you thinking over there with everything that that brother Unc has said so far?
Well, you're right. I do got some thoughts.
Go ahead, I'm here.
Well, to me, it feels like we spend a lot of time trying to figure out what the problem is and who we are. Are we African? Are we African American? Moors, FBA, Pan Africans, pro black, something else? And I know all of that matters. And I know identity is important. But for someone my age, it can get confusing and overwhelming extremely fast. Because while everybody is debating the labels of who we are, I don't always see us moving together. It feels like we're splitting into smaller and smaller groups. And I just feel the more we divide, the harder it is and the harder it will be for us to act like one people.
Yeah. I agree.
Hmm. Well, African Americans are not a monolith. No group is. Don't let them fake you out. Nobody actually does that. And to be honest with you, all those labels, those wild, I call them wild labels. You know, when something really go down, we come together. My kids had me, man, in the middle of the pandemic, man, they had me out there marching. I was like, they were like, come on, Dad. You go. I was like, I'm not, it's a pandemic. I'm not going out there. Like we going, they was like you, ferocious, man. Had me out there. So I had a nice little spot, me and my man, up on it was on a parking deck. It was perfect spot. We could see all the people marching around. They was like, you want to be in the crowd? I was like, no, no. Man, I say I ain't gonna let my kids go by themselves, man. Go down the crowd, mix it up. And I'm saying it was all the labels down there. That's just talk, man. At the end of the day, when something trying, the community fight back and come together. When we split and come, that's how you know we comfortable. I'm a Moor. I'm a Native American. We doing all that. When something serious come down, even with the herbs, I'm with the herbs. When your grandmother gets sick, you call the ambulance. You don't wait for the doctor to say the ambulance to come, right? You don't say, take me to the Black Power Hospital. I mean, all the trash you done talk about high-level medical science. When the rubber meets the road, everybody be like this, sitting in the waiting room. You don't care what color the doctor is. Is my kid okay? Yeah, we got him. You got him here just in time, such and such, and he's fine. Then you go back to your podcast and talk crazy. You get my point? I never want to be that type of person, right? So yes, we not as far apart as you think we are. That's the internet. That's not real. Right? We not the ancient Moors. We not none of that. We African Americans. I hit them, then you got the FBA movement, which is based in pseudoscientific ideas, rhetoric. You know what I mean? I say we FBAA, Foundational Black African Americans. We have ethnogenesis. With the small Native American population, we have a little bit in our genome. We have Europeans in our genome, right? Largely Western Central African. No, we're not the ancient Egyptians. They're Northeast Africans. We're Western Central Africans. But that does not mean that I don't big up the continent of Africa, no matter what the skin range is. So the people in Kemet, they skin range, yours, mine, and other different types of skin color and ranges, right? And Northeast Africans. So we're actually none of these things. We're having a cultural war within ourselves. Remember I say the war is in ourselves? So anytime a person how about they're Hebrew, it's a war they fighting inside themselves. Anytime you how I'm committing, it's that war, I'm more. So we're not separated like that. When the rubber meets the road, sis, we all come together. We don't even think about that.
There it is.
There it is.
There it is.
Okay. So it's time for a question from the segment zone. This is where I'm going to ask you a life fun question. But this one may have some heat on it.
You going to put some heat on it?
Uh-oh.
I know. I can feel it.
Let's say you walk into a room where people are like Dr. Sabi or Yaki Awakened are claiming that you can superheal the body with miracle herbs or secret formulas. Or people say that evolution isn't real or that human beings are going to come out of Africa. If you could only bring two people with you, any two figures, ancestor or alive, to fight alongside you, and bring a few receipts or pieces of evidence that shut down all of that at the same time, who are you bringing? And what receipts are you dropping down on the table to shut down the misinformation?
Hubert Harris and John Henry Clark.
Why those two?
Because Hubert Harris spoke fluent Greek, fluent Hebrew, scientific literacy. He commanded an audience of thousands of people. That's why I went to Harlem. on Sunday TV to stand out there to do what Hubert Harrison did. He brought that whole separate thing. He was an atheist in a time in the 1900s where you wasn't even being no atheist. He was serious. He was right there. He was. Oh, hold on. Let me show you something here. What? I know I had this right here. He would shut that room all. They wouldn't have a chance. John Henry Clark. You don't got a shot against John Henry Clark. When you hear me say, yeah, it's on page such and such, page 91, this book, that's me channeling my John Henry Clark. So this is what John Henry Clark said on page 91 on Who Betrayed the African World Revolution. Hey, here you go. He says this. That's why I'm taking him. He says, in order to get these things straight, there's certain terminology in history you'll have to throw into the ash can. Mm-hmm. You have to stop using the term Negro Africa. There's no such thing as a Negro area. There's no such thing as a people called Negro. We'll have to stop using the term Black Africa. He says, because it presupposes that there's a legitimate white Africa. So right there, he's tapping in. He's saying, look, man, that's a social construct. Where is the black land? When you say you just black, he's talking about where you from. You know, what does that denote? The name Kemet. People will say that the name Kemet means the land of the black people. Well, when you go to Africa, ain't nothing but what you would consider to be black people, right? So then where's the distinguishing factor? What brings out the Africanness? The land itself, right? The black land, right? The land with the black soil, the black dirt, it connects them to their indigenousness, right? Because right there from space, you can see the black land, right? It attached them to their religion, growth and development, right? Out of building strong African farming communities, of the blackness of the rich soil, the compost, the river, with the river's a mighty river, and things will go into the river. Humans will die and drown. Hippopotamus will get eaten by alligators, and as the animals cross the river, they'll die, right? And you presuppose they did. And then during the annual flooding, that mix of death and destruction is actually food that will spill over to the banks. And out of that rich nutrients of what you consider death, it gives life. And so out of that tradition comes their religion, the blackness of Asar. It's the black dirt, not the skin color of the people. Everybody, that's normal. That don't clothe you, feed you, and shelter you. I'm gonna say it again. The color of your skin does not clothe you, shelter, and feed you. The color of your skin, based off of humans coming in the world naked, protect you from the harmful radiation. Okay, but that black soil gave life. It gave ideas. And so what? That seeds come from Western Asia. That's not an issue, because by the time these particular grains come from Western Asia, right? They're packaged in an indigenous African way of doing business, African way of farming. And so the very nature of the blackness is really the soil, because the soil gave them what? Food, clothing, and shelter. So I'm taking Hubert Harrison and John Henry Clark because they were serious, right? He 1970, he telling you, no Africans created the racial construct. They created the pseudoscientific one-drop rule. I'm often asked the question, well, if you brought the Egyptians here today, would they be black? I say, do pseudoscience? You want me to use pseudoscience? Okay, so right there, they're gonna shut it down. Like we walking out with the victory. All right, Dr. Saban gonna be looking crazy. They done. Yeah, they done. And by the way, the vegans die first in our community. Just for the record, I'm just saying.
That one more time.
The vegans die first in the community.
One more time for
the vegans die first in the community.
Way in the back.
Right, but I'm saying it's about having a healthy diet. A lot of vegetables. Not a whole lot of, meats, right? But, balance. Vegetables every day, fruit and vegetables every day, nice balance, proteins, you know what I'm saying? But just straight up vegans, that's a white person thing. So that's another thing that white people brought to America. Go find an indigenous vegan tribe. They lied about the ancient Egyptians. The ancient Egyptians fished, they ate meat, they did all kind of things, right? Hunting communities, all that. So, yeah.
Dr. Sebi.
Yeah.
Dr. Sebi and Yaki Awaken have a they have huge followings. I mean,
Yeah, you
you
ain't
know,
gonna be passing.
yeah, yeah. So what you're saying, uh, I'm sure that a lot of people in that community wouldn't take kindly to it, right?
Well, I mean, they should say go find an indigenous vegan community.
Mm,
That's Africa. They all claim in Africa now. Am I correct?
that is correct.
Right. They taking you back to the stuff. They wasn't vegans. Your teeth verifies you're not vegans. Your canines, the way they positioned, right? It's positioned just like other apes or primates, right? They position at the molars. You have your canines. All this is, we're omnivores, right? The different communities eat different things. That's why we don't food shame,
Mm.
right? They eat different than my granddaddy. He hunt the possum on the back porch. My great grandfather, grandpa, like, I ain't eating that. You trip, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not. What I'm saying is, listen. Do what you want to do. But I wanted to answer her daggone question, man. We shutting it down with Hubert Harrison and John Henry Clark. We coming out there with the victory. Did Yaki Awakening? He gonna get beat down. I got him. He the young buck. Dr. Savior gonna get finished off, but John Henry Clark gonna call him a fool. Same way he called Farrakhan him a fool, right? Because he understood. He was there. He had scientific literacy. He understood the power of belief, right? And the superpowers of non-belief. See, I got a superpower. My superpower is I'm not trying to believe nothing you say. I'm skeptical. So I'm saying, sis, and brother Saw, if y'all can take anything from me, be skeptical of everything this community tells you. Be
Okay.
skeptical of what I'm telling you. Look up what I'm saying if you can. Verify it. Have questions. Ask, well, I don't like the way yeah, I mean, I like it doing like this. No. Yeah, see, put the eyes on him. I can see him. See, that's the superpower. You can see right through him. Nah, you over whooping. Nah.
Yeah, no, we appreciate that. And Reya'Sekhmet, why don't you share your two warriors with Brother Unk and
Man, what you
see
got?
and match wits with Brother Unk?
Okay.
And I say that, Brother Unk, because a lot of people that watch her podcast, they be in the comments, man, and some people be thinking, and Reya'Sekhmet don't get off into the comments, and we don't
Don't do it.
share that, a lot of that, because there's a lot of people that support, but there's also people who don't pay. You can tell when somebody who don't watch the interview or one of her podcast episodes, they just in there to be heard and make comments and try to get clickbait. But anywho, I say that to say, there are some who think that we be rehearsing her or feeding her this information, but this be coming off the top of the dome for
Yeah,
her.
you can tell. You can
So
tell.
I just want Reya'Sekhmet to share with you her two warriors.
Yeah.
Matt, go ahead and look. If anybody think that Ryan Star got handcuffs on Reya'Sekhmet, I do not. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead and share and match wits with Brother Unk. Let's hear what your two warriors are. Yes, I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. First, I'm bringing the answers to Dr. John Henry Clark because he taught us that history is not a place for magical shortcuts. He reminded us that our people have always used discipline, study, and real knowledge to solve real problems. And the receipt I dropped is his teaching that African history is human history, and you can't heal a community with myths that sound good but don't stand up to evidence. Second,
Where that power finger at?
I'm bringing the ancestor, Sheikh Auntie Joe, because he used science, radiocarbon testing, and genetics to prove Africa's central role in human history. And the receipt I dropped is the biological and genetic evidence showing that all Homo sapiens sapiens originate in Africa. And the evolution is not an opinion. It's a measurable, testable reality.
Well, there it is. There it is.
I think I'll get you because Diop didn't speak English, so you.
Hey, it had to be translated.
Yeah, we could get. Yeah, Diop's. He was like a mastermind. Yeah, he was a he. You know what's funny to me? that he was not an Afrocentric or centrist.
Mm-hmm.
But his work became a calling card for Afrocentrists. And I be thinking, well, if you're gonna use his work as a calling card and to be an Afrocentrist, then wouldn't you become a scientist? He was a scientist. He was an astrophysicist. He had his radiocarbon dating lab, right? He was an anthropologist, right? He's renowned for bringing interdisciplinary studies to a discussion about African people that was fraught with wild people talking crazy about who these Nile Valley indigenous Africans was. And so I be thinking though, yeah, if you was going to be a real true Afrocentrist, you would need a degree. You would have a doctorate degree. That would be the standard. A doctorate in said subject you're talking about, right? You wouldn't be a brother Ankh, right? I had to self-teach myself because I came in a space where, man, it wasn't there. Had to learn and push and prod. But to call yourself an Afrocentrist, you would have to be an expert in said subject and what you're talking about. That would be the
Right.
true measure of that. So yeah, I mean, yeah, Diaz was, yeah, he was, yeah, he changed the field of how you see it. He flipped the field, Egyptology on how they see it. Yeah, you can, and I want to end with this though. Do you know how long it took for them to actually say the Egyptians was African
Long time.
in museum? No, guess when they started doing it. There's a small museum exhibit, not a major museum exhibit, that mentioned the Egyptians with Africa. I think it was in Seattle somewhere, small one. Right? The documentary just got back from Egypt a few months ago, and they had Sudan in Egypt and had it on a different floor. But the Brooklyn Museum is the first major museum, maybe 2-3 years ago, to actually say that the Egyptians was indigenous Africans. That's how long it took. And we read it on Big Up the Brother Reggie, right? We did the Brooklyn Museum tour. If y'all can go out of the Green Sahara, right? People think that they was saying no, it took that long since the Cairo Symposium for a major museum exhibit to say that the Nile Valley Africans was indigenous. Now, indigenous don't mean that they was a static, stuck population. That's the lie in the community. That there were outside genomes, segments of genomes that you can see that was brought into Africa. That's okay. The line that's called Africa is arbitrary. Okay? So we understand populations are fluid. That's why it's a population, it's not static. Right? That's why we make the statement that the population is in the Nile Valley today, right, is more closely related to the ancient Egyptians than anybody. Now, they're not socially related. They don't practice indigenous African religions, yo, but they're Africans. There is no one way to be African. Surprisingly or not, I studied the work of Shamata Cater, right? And he brings this home. There is no, look at the interview we did with him. There's no one way to be African. So I'm telling you the feature, the racism is that picture where you get the European in the middle with the three-piece suit. You get the Native American, you get the Aborigine, and you get the Negro. That's racism, right? You should have matched up a hunter-gatherer tribe from Europe with the hunter-gatherer tribe you show in West Africa, wearing they native stuff. That would have been a fair picture. But our mind can't get past that. We think to be 100% African, you got to have big lips and peppercorn hair and be short. Well, the Pygmies built the pyramids. That's infideci. That's craziness, right? That's not legitimate. That's not backed in anthropological. He has not wrote the book. He has not read the works, the Bantu, Batwa, and history, West Central Africa, early times, 1900 CE to 1900. He has not read this work. Okay, they don't build. The Pygmies, that come from Albert Churchwood, where the Pygmies went around the world and did all that. That's Albert Churchwood. That's premortal signs and symbols. That's not what that is. So
has anyone ever? I don't mean to interrupt your flow, so pardon me, but I just want to ask this: has anyone ever challenged Infodici on that theory.
I did on Sarnetta's TV, and I had to leave. I left. I didn't want to disrupt. It was James Small's the last interview. Go see it. He said all that, and I got my time to speak. I said I disagree with 95% of what you said. I thought I was being nice. He was like, "What?" James Small was like, "Oh man, see, Smalls no." He was like, Small said, "You know what? I think we just need to have a conversation, all of us." Right? All of it. I want to be there, bring Infodici. Infodici ain't gonna never have a conversation with me. I actually like Infodici. He really can meet the meta nature. I like him. I ain't gonna lie. I never would try to stop his flow of money, whatever he sell, right? In Harlem. I think that's important to the elder. And but all that, man, that's nonsense. Like, that's not the real indigenous African people. So yeah, we with the Aakhu'Ra squad, we challenged the elder. Oh man, we done been through it. So yeah, but I didn't want to be on a panel, and you should not be on a panel, a segment, and somebody say something that's blatantly wrong, and you just say, I just don't agree with that, and we can just move the conversation on, but you don't want to give your beautiful light to people. So I'm never wanting Infodici, because he older than me, to stand on my shine. I want the world to know that I don't agree with 95% of what you just said. And we can discuss the 5% of what I agree with. But that 95%, I just wanted the world to know I'm not a kid, right? Because ain't no age limit. See, this is another thing. Ain't no age limit in this conversation, sis. It's just intellect. How well you command the subject is the age. So you can be 9, 10, 11, 12 and have command of Charles Darwin theory of evolution, and a person can be 90 and talking about we popped up out the Garden of Eden, and you just bet at him at that. Right? So yes, we have. But I don't, it ain't a thing for me. My thing is, I'm never sitting on a panel with people talking crazy about subjects that I clearly understand, and you just got to find a way to mix that in and say, well, I don't agree with that. I think it may should be this, and keep it moving. But that's actually very, very healthy. You're in an unhealthy community, and I believe the community has become unhealthy because they've put an imaginary block where a person is older or a person has a renowned name, that influence is more greater than the information. That's crazy, man. Sekhmet says some things that it don't matter what your age is. It's thorough. Saw you say things is thorough, and
I appreciate that.
that name recognition is a gift and a curse. Like, that's nonsense. We not here for the name recognition. Although we all want to get recognized what we do, but the name recognition should not overthrow reality and the truth, right?
Facts. And we only have we have 2 more questions
Yeah,
for
go
you.
ahead. Don't rush it through. Let it go. I want her to, because we kind of took over a little bit. I want Segment to get a thing off, man. Go ahead.
Okay.
Look, family, and for those of you who still play on words, when we use the term African, we're talking about black people. So whether you use the term Kushite, African, African American, Moor, Hebrew, 5%er, comedian, however you identify with your blackness in and around the diaspora, I want you to know we as a people have some serious work to do. And though we know the Creator has many names, we're witnessing a ritual of detachment. It doesn't matter whether they say God, Allah, Yahweh, or Amen-Ra. As soon as someone opens up their mouth to you and says God will work it out, they have declared you irrelevant. And right then, you're supposed to kick they butt out of any position of leadership in your society, because we have to liberate ourselves. No one is coming to save us. So, brother Ankh, with what I just said, what would you say black people must remember right now in 2026 and beyond? And what must we forget in order to move forward?
Yeah.
Before you answer that, I'm feeling your energy. What did Brother Unc do to you?
Yeah, you're in trouble now. Yeah, it's official. Check the box.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't. Yeah, that's one of them things you just did right there. That's one of them things, man. That's a level of understanding that you don't see coming out of the mouths of a 9-year-old there.
Right.
It's very elegant and graceful to say, man, that's a bunch of crap. So man, I'm kind of like, yeah, I hear you, shorty, and you chose your path, man. You know what I mean? And so, I understand humans have ideas. Um, you just got to know where to place the value at in those ideas. As far as critiquing a person based off of how they believe and what they believe is a very interesting thing, and you'll find it. And and they're gonna make it so that you can't talk about the subject or say the things that you just said. They're gonna push for that. Because at the end of the day, it's the believers that have been co-opted by religion that are in charge of what we're doing, specifically in the communities. You know, they try to run me off as a sideshow. And so it's a powerful statement to recognize that no matter what you calling on, you still, get away from them. Right, because they locked in is all you just named about three, four, five different cultures. And I never want to run another culture in the ground based off of colonialism. So I never thought that African cultures, their creation stories was any less valid than the biblical Hebrew creation story. I know it's all fixed in particular time periods. And so as you said all those different names, you was really talking about different people in different environments at different times. You can mark a Hebrew by looking up the name Yahweh, and it's going to give you a Middle Eastern tradition, and you would know that those tribes that come out of being hunter gatherers, right? They was nomadic people, uh, 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 in the bronze and the iron. They barely iron age people. You had already reached in the Nile Valley. They reached golden ages already when these people start their traditions. Okay, and so their tradition wasn't a world tradition. It was a pocket. The Bible is never talking about the whole world. It's talking about their world,
Mm.
right? And disrespect of other people's world because they claim to have the God. They claim to have the idea. They claim to have the concept, but never met the whole world. They never went to Australia and talked to them. They never went to the Americas and talked to the Olmec people, which are not African, right? You know what I'm saying? They never talked to the Apache, right? They never went anywhere. They never circumnavigated the globe like Charles Darwin did to make his assertion that Africa would be the starting place of humanity because he went around the world. And as he went around the world, his ideas changed. He felt like European culture should be taught everywhere that it was superior. And by the time he started meeting different people, he started saying, that's not true. That if I taught them that language, my language, they could learn it and they're just as intelligent as me. Because he's seen different people. The biblical text was written in an environment of ignorance. They had not known the world yet. The Greeks live in a tradition they have not known. The Egyptians did not know the world. They knew their world. And so the statement you made was a world statement that only people like me and you could really get. So, man, I don't even think you had a question behind that, right? You just was basically saying what I say about that. What I
Mhm.
just said. Yeah, I'm be honest with you. You don't have to respect other people's traditions. Just don't disrespect them. You get it? Like I don't gotta respect that you think Jesus is the God of the world. I don't respect that. But I'm not gonna disrespect you. I think you can have that. I'm not saying you're not African because you believe that. I can say you colonized though. And then when you try to make Jesus black, you double downing on yourself. Right? That's a double down. Right. So because if you really believed it, then why I gotta be a certain color?
Mm.
Right? But yeah, I always say we don't gotta respect it. But my final answer be you just I don't disrespect people.
Yeah, yeah. And you, Reya'Sekhmet and Brother Unc, y'all been flying at about 30,000 feet. And so I think
No.
higher than that. Okay, y'all hitting the
Cosmos.
ceiling.
We're in the cosmos. And big up to the space age African Astronomy Club, because you had a question about the astronomy and astronomy and proto astronomy.
Yeah, I was gonna. I was gonna circle back, but y'all been cooking. So
Let her finish. I want her to get hers out. Did she?
there was a piece. There was a piece in that criteria where you. I don't know if you roasted somebody or what, or
Yeah,
went
it was,
Bobby Banger
it was
on them,
down
but
there in Tifa, yeah.
I seen that you turned somebody into like the Muffin Man or
Yeah,
Bean Pie or
yeah.
something.
Bean pie.
But I just think that Reya'Sekhmet, as you come to your close, when at your convenience or in the time frame that we have with brother Unc.
Yeah, she got unlimited time. She earned it. Her question
You,
to the next thing.
yeah, absolutely. You need to speak to your J&J-Life Ma'atians, and kind of, you know, include them and say something to them, with some of the things and that you're talking about, just so that they have an understanding of where we at today, right?
Okay. For the young warriors becoming, legacy is not something the elders and the elders talk about. It's something you're already building, even if you don't notice it yet. The easiest way I can explain it is how Barbara Sar explained it to me. Legacy is like footprints you leave in cement, wet cement. You might walk away, you might grow up, you might forget you even sat there, but the mark stays. It's the way people remember how you made them feel, what you stood for, and what you tried to build even when you were still learning. And I'm only 9, so my cement is still soft. But every question I ask, every truth I try to understand, and every time I stand up, even when I'm nervous, that's a footprint. So, family, legacy isn't about being perfect. It's about leaving marks that mean something long after the moment is over.
Facts, facts.
So, Baba, I'm thinking about legacy.
Mhm.
So, after everything is done and said, how should your work be understood? I mean, like, really understood. Because I'm learning that people love reacting to you, but they don't always love understanding you.
That's a good question.
Man, because science and science literacy is hard, and religion only requires you to believe it's not hard. The things I say, you actually have to read about it. You actually have to go to experts. You,
Beyond Google.
yeah, you right. You got AI tools now. You learn how to use it. Use the sources. But science is hard. Science is something that you have to be a part of. You have to read. It requires you to read. It requires you to listen to other experts. I bring college level material to a community who's reading in the 6th grade. Most people's not reading at a college level, man. They working in factories or they doing this, they doing that. They're not listening to what we're talking about, segment. They not. And they easy pickings. It's like taking candy from a baby. So, in the fine African tradition of my yacht, and I say this for real, right? We have to be careful on the way we do what we do. I'm not saying I was always careful because I was always in an environment where they coming at me crazy and fighting. So my thing was a little bit different. I had to be a warrior in that. I like to say I fought in all the major worlds from the beginning of the time. I'm basically saying the beginning of the time, talking about all the different types of conversation is the beginning of time for me. Conquered this war, conquered that, right? And I did it with science literacy. So, I would just basically say that, however we give this message out, it has to be done with elegance and grace. Our people aren't ready for it, right? Because they're asleep. And it's like the Marine Corps, snatch them out the bed. They don't got to say, come on, you gotta get up. Come on. No, that's not what's going on. You gotta get them up out of that. And then you gotta be smart enough to know that how was you thinking? You have to have empathy for our people. I have empathy for our people. I understand that I have empathy for Frances Cress Welsing. She didn't say a lot. Everything she said wasn't correct, but I have empathy for John Henry Clark and Dr. Ben and them. I put them in a proper place and time. I'm never taking my ideas that I know and putting them on them because I have more access to information. So I have empathy with that. There are some people that will take scientific truths and bash out elders. I don't think that makes sense, right? Because you got to give them time to grow, and they're going to be younger people such as yourself. They're going to say, "Well, Unc said such and such wasn't right." I'm saying just have empathy for me, right? And so I just want to say because this has been a powerful interview. I just want to say just have some empathy. That means that I'm gonna keep kicking that reality, right? But I feel where you at because I was once there.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Shay.
I asked that question because since I'm just getting started, I think about legacy for myself too.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know my whole legacy yet, but I do know this. I want people to understand that I'm asking questions because I'm trying to grow and not because I'm trying to win. I want my work to be seen as a young mind trying to learn the truth without fear and without shrinking just because adults get uncomfortable.
Yeah, facts. So Reya'Sekhmet, you got me wondering now. You know what I'm saying? Tell me, or you know what, share with the family. What would you expect? What would you expect people to say about Reya'Sekhmet?
So, family, I wouldn't anticipate for you all to say if anyone remembers anything about me later. I would anticipate you all to say she asked real questions even when she was still becoming.
Even when she was what?
Still becoming.
Got you.
And look, family. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. No. That was
Still becoming right. We all still
pretty
becoming.
deep.
Yeah, we all still becoming. Right.
That was
And
pretty
I
deep.
just, my legacy, I just hope that people say that man has some empathy.
Ashe. So, brother Unc, is there anything we didn't touch on today that you want to talk about? And is there anything coming up for you in the near future that the family should know about? Speaking engagements, community practices, stuff like that.
Well, I'm gonna have some Aakhu'Ra on again, coming in next coming months. Support the channel community of skeptics, pseudo killers. I also do a show on Sarnetta's studio where I get into the, well, they there over there. The pseudos is coming.
Yeah.
And, my thing is just to promote, I'm a science advocate. I promote scientific literacy to tell authentic African American history. And that just has not, that it fell by the wayside. When the elders left, the scientific literacy left with them. The names I named,
Mm-hmm.
we've been caught up in this magical thing where everybody's Egyptian and the shrines, the Jabari and all them got the magical. That's not what we're doing around here. So I just want to just tell everybody, we just need to, there's a mandate that having our history, right? If we claiming, white people lied about our history, that for me, out the hidden history of black stuff like that, that's a red flag. I want to give the red flags going out the door. The red flag is the person say, we got the hidden history. Red flag. When the person wear a funny hat, it's a red flag. I got the 10-gallon Moore hat, red flag, feathers, red flag, the short cook order hat, red flag, dressed up in costumes, Power Ranger outfits. They're all red flags of misinformation.
Power Ranger out.
Simple things, right? We dress like this now. Now, if you have on traditional African garbs, that's dope. That's not what I'm talking about because we are Western Central Africans and we reserve the right to wear some of the clothes. Of course, that's different, but you know what I'm talking about. The Malachi York, all that, the costumes, the more.
Oh, yeah, we're feeling the innuendos.
Man, that's a red flag, man. The extra, you know what I'm saying? But in for DC, I like the way he dressed, though. He dressed traditional West African. That's deep.
Yeah, he fly.
That's fly. Yeah, I ain't even talking. See, I ain't talking about that, right? But I just, yeah, I'm always legacy building. I'm aware of my legacy too. Just to let you know, I'm never letting them get that off. You never saying, "Unc, just sit there and let them say that." I'm never letting you get that off, right? And so, yep, I just would like to just make that point. The red flags. I want to end with the red flags.
Yeah, facts. And fam, we'll put your social media links in the video description. But for the family that may not know, how can one get a hold of you if they have questions? And we didn't even get to talk about your book, but purchase your book or want to follow you. Also, do you have a way for the family to show their appreciation and/or love offerings or some way for the family to support?
You hit the Cash App at Uncle Keck, ANKHKAKEK. That, and then like and subscribe. We building the YouTube channel back up because I done lost my channel. I done had 100,000 subscribers, and the haters, the pseudos, got my channels taken down when I was going against Young Pharaoh and them and SETI and them. So, they got my channels taken down. That's after they took my personal information and put it out. I'm definitely the first person, what they call it, doxing. I'm the first person that got doxed when they pulled up my criminal record from 30, 40 years ago. They always go back 15, 30 years on me. That's the game plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go back. He said 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And yeah, that's the game plan for me because they ran out of intellectual bullets. But yeah, they can contact me, just type in the pseudo killers where we go against pseudoisms, misinformation, which the conscious community is built off of pseudoisms and misinformation. It just is. Your favorite YouTube channel, you think on African consciousness and all that, it's a pseudo channel. You don't know it, right? But that's okay. We fight throughout. We all come from humble pseudo beginnings.
Absolutely.
Right there.
Absolutely. Why don't you do a shameless plug on your book, Reya'Sekhmet? I'll hold it up.
Okay. Family, before we get out of here, I want to let you all know I wrote a book. It's called The Magical Adventures of Ralina. Book 1, Rise of the Flame. My book is about a girl named Ralina. She's got the instincts of a wolf, like super hearing and strength because she's an alpha. Ra gives her the gift to channel the energy of Sekhmet and Bastet and the ability to move between realms using her Ankh. She goes on this adventure with her baby sister Katrina, and together they ride a mystical train to the lands of Kemet and Kush. It's an African-centered tale of applying the principles of Ma'at, and I wrote it with the support of my Barbara Sar. And it's on sale now in paperback hardcover and as an ebook. You can also go over to Amazon.com right now, type my name in the search bar, Reya'Sekhmet, and get your copy today. You can also go to my website, which is www.reya'Sekhmet.com to get your autograph copy.
Well said. Well said. Let's
You know what? I had, man, I'm really kind of done with it though. But I was looking for the chronology of the Bible by Dr. Ben. And it inspired me to put the chronology of human evolution. But I'm actually writing a part 2, be super tighter.
how do we get our hands on that book?
Man, I'm kind of like took it off the market, man. I shifted in what I was thinking. I'm reading. I'm like, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I might have to send y'all a copy though.
Man, look, bless us, brother Unc, because we really want to dive into the mind of brother Unc, and like I said in the beginning, we want the Unc experience. We are students of information, and the one thing that we teach at the Amu Institute, and we didn't talk about that too much today, but we want information that supports all sides. That way we have the information so that we can make better decisions. That's our motto.
Yes. And family, if there's one thing we can take away from this discussion, it's right here. Bring your sources, not your stories. Because stories can sound good and feel good, but sources keep us grounded. Sources protect the community, and sources keep us from getting lost. And Baba Ankh, we want to give you the final word to close out today's discussion. The floor is yours, Baba.
And along with that, remember that plea about the book, Baba. You got me saying Baba. That's brother Unc. But yeah, you got the final word. But I just wanted to do the shameless ask on the book.
I remember coming in the community where there was no sources, where people, the pseudos, could just say anything out their mouth. The red pills, the blue pills, the Inkies, the everybody. That's the generation I fought against. Dr. Sabies, nobody had to have a source. You just say it. Bobby Hemmett, Delbert Blairs, all of them was following the theocratical society, Madame Blavatsky and them, New Age. So nobody had sources. So I made that my thing. So whenever you hear somebody saying source up or shut up, I'm directly responsible for that. I wanted to name what it was. It was pseudoisms. It was misinformation. It was trying to represent science, but wasn't scientific. It was false. The word pseudo prefix is wrong. So I wanted to label because I seen that affluent communities, whether it be Indian, European, they will separate their academic standards from their those who fell by the wayside. Our community actually big up the misinformation and talked crazy about the academics. There was an anti-scientific climate. So I wanted to put science at the forefront of the discussion by never losing against a pseudo. A pseudo will attempt to say, don't look that up. Oh, you don't know the answer to that question? That's not true. There's plenty of questions I know the answer to. But just because I don't know doesn't mean I can't look it up. And it doesn't mean because I don't know that the field has not figured it out already. And if the field has not figured it out, we're not going to use the God of the gaps, meaning where there's a space we don't know. That doesn't mean that one day we won't know. And so misdirection, misinformation is what the community does on a regular basis. Hold them to a rigorous standard. Make them have a methodology about what they're doing. Make them stand on a square. Make them verify and show what they're talking about. That'll keep you out of a cult. That'll keep you out of misinformation. That'll keep you out of spreading the poison. What's the poison? The poison is the thing that goes against the mandate. What's the mandate? To have accurate history about African people on the continent of Africa, in world history, and in America. Keep everything solid. I appreciate you, Sekhmet and Asar. I appreciate everybody's growth, right? Especially you, sis. I appreciate your growth. What you think is the truth today, that may change. That's okay. That's part of growth. What I think is right today, more information will be brought to the table, and always be willing to change. Change is what the cosmos is about. 13 billion years, it's 13.5 or 13.7 years of change has occurred. Evolution is change over time, change in the frequency of the gene pool, variation, understanding a lot of different things is what helped Homo sapiens survive. So I just want to end with this, Black African power.
Black African power. There it is.
And they got the black power ring on. The superpowers activate. Boom.
Wait. Let's do that one more time for the family.
The activate. Yeah, the activate. The activate.
Sacrifice and pay the price. Be for Hodie family. Reya'Sekhmet is out.
Peace and love is the key. Ra represents the essence of truth, justice, harmony, balance, order, and germane which is prosperity and righteousness.
J&J-Life podcast. J&J-Life podcast.
The J&J-Life podcast was created to give the family a place and platform to embrace their spiritual awakening and consciousness. J&J-Life is dedicated to showcasing the beauty of our culture, educating our people and those that want to learn this work. Smash that like button. Peace and love is Nikki.